Hi, I'm Brandon Sands, and with my one of my well, at least one of my group members, Richard Murphy. We're going to talk about our stadium proposals, ones that did get accepted, ones that didn't get accepted, and then have a little discussion about some of the similarities and differences that we saw, and maybe what actually overrides or contributes to a stadium getting accepted and built versus not getting out of the planning stages. The one that I picked out that did get accepted, it's a fairly new one, opened in 2017. It's the new home of the Atlanta Braves in Georgia. It's Truist Park now, but it opened as SunTrust Park. It was developed back in 2013 because the Braves were in their old stadium in not downtown Atlanta, but just outside downtown Atlanta, Turner Field. The problem with Turner Field was over time there wasn't enough parking spots compared to the capacity because it was originally built as to host the I think the opening and closing ceremonies of the Olympics back in '96. And the land around it wasn't really developed, which is something that they wanted to alleviate when they moved to the suburbs, which they determined most of their season ticket holders and stuff lived at. The new stadium is smaller in capacity, and what was really interesting about this one was they also decided to develop the land around the stadium. So it's called the Battery Atlanta. It was opened the same time the stadium was, and it's home to your base. It's like shopping centers. It's got retail, restaurants, bars, live centers, and stuff. And I think the goal of that was so that fans could spend the whole day there. Versus when you went to Turner Field, you kind of you didn't really want to stay in the area around the game, which kind of hurt that area. As far as finance goes, it's owned by Cobb County, where the location is. The stadium cost $622 million to build. The deal that the Braves and the county agreed to, the Braves would pay 250 of that, the county would pay 397 of that, and they'd be locked into a 30-year lease there. There was some debate in the community there because it went back and forth, and the county was paying about 150 more million. But where the rub comes in is that entertainment district that I talked about. The Braves funded the entire 400 million, which brings their total for the overall project up to about 650, which is a little bit more than the stadium itself. And my sources on that were the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. As far as the one that didn't get built, I hope I'm saying this right, it's Yarborough City Stadium. It was the proposal for the Tampa Bay Rays to move out of the Trop. That ballpark cost $828 million. It doesn't feature an entertainment district or anything. And the reason that's so big is because that one came with a closed-in roof, which cost about $245 in addition to the $550 million stadium. The reason why it didn't get built was the county that was that the Rays were trying to do it. They wanted it to be a 50-50 split with funding, whereas the Rays owner was only willing to contribute $150 million towards his $830 million stadium. So that's kind of why that one fell apart. And I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, so my discussion is going to talk about the Los Angeles Coliseum. It was first publicly funded. The first fully publicly funded stadium back in 2018. And I believe the reasons for the utilization of these the outcomes are merely that the government entities has used tax-free municipal bonds for quite some time to finance, of course, certain projects, including the stadium. When the local states and governments agree on this type of financing, it's slated to produce jobs in regards to the construction of the facility. These bonds are usually purchased by the investors, and they usually, pretty much pay a lower interest rate. And then it becomes more enlightening to the investors because of its tax-free status. It's projected to bring positive internalities to the city. When regards to the NFL stadiums, each team hosts approximately 8 home games per season. During the lifetime of the stadium, the benefits tends to accumulate even more. The stadiums additionally attracts more tourism and business, which can further lead to more spending and, of course, create jobs. The additional benefits is that it will be the first stadium to have hosted the Summer Olympics 3 times, once in 1932, 1984, and of course, coming up 2028. With the new construction, it's going to cost about $14.3 million in 2019. And that's pretty much I can say about the actual successful part about it. My actual information regarding the unsuccessful funding is that the city of St. Louis voted to reject a $60 million proposal on a stadium for a Major League Soccer franchise. It seems that the vote was fairly close, with like 50% saying no, while 40% saying there was agreeing. And one of their primary concerns was that the public money is somewhat hard to come by, especially for sports venues, even though in recent years, some NFL teams have secured public funding, but it was done so without the process of voting. So literally, to get funding, they had to actually vote on it to be able to say it's going to be done. But then over the recent years, there were indications that they didn't actually need to vote. They just actually automatically got it approved, actually got the process was funded, and from their point on.
Yeah, I guess St. Louis haven't had too much luck getting stadiums built and stuff. I know the Rams left, a couple years ago too. Actually, they spent those couple years at the Coliseum, I believe. Right. I guess what I found in mine was a big part of this comes from probably the biggest part of this comes from who pays for it, between is it the city or the county or whoever versus the owner, the team, private investors, and all that. Like the Braves, even though the county paid for more of the stadium, the Braves ended up paying pretty much double, like over half of that when you factor into that entertainment district and stuff that they built too, because you think obviously the executives and the players and stuff aren't going to come there, but who's going to work in the restaurant or the bar? It's going to be people that live, in Cobb County, in that area. So that's going to bring a lot of jobs and stuff to that.
I recall in the video that we watched with the Green Bay Packers, because what they were doing was actually taking ownership. The actual fans were taking ownership and an investment into the project. So therefore, they're becoming owners. That's just something I found was very interesting. And being here in Florida, but our actual Hard Rock Stadium, the name has been changed from so many different, it depends on which investor comes in, but they've changed the name several times. And we just had the Super Bowl here this past February. So it actually brought in a lot of jump. It turned the community completely around. And it was a really good thing to do. It's like, I really found very interesting. I went out there and just perused it. Of course, I couldn't afford to go inside and watch the actual game, but it was just interesting to actually have it here. And yeah, I just again, what you're saying as far as like who's going to fund it, who's going to pay for it, it's like a little shuffling around some.
And I think that's the rub, because like an owner knows that building a stadium is going to be good for the community. So maybe like in the Rays case, they're less likely to put up the money themselves, because the community should pay for it because it's going to benefit the community. Exactly. Like I live in North Carolina, and I grew up a fan of the Braves, so I would always go to Turner Field growing up and stuff, but I didn't really stay around Turner Field. We would go to the hotel, we drive there to the game, and then drive back and go somewhere else. It wasn't really, because it's not really developed. It's like all residential and stuff. I think there was like one restaurant and like one hotel that was in walking distance of the stadium, which, but I mean, which was weird because Atlanta's a pretty big city, but but a place like Miami or a place like LA or New York and stuff, those are all downtown locations. So that stuff is kind of built in there. I had in January, I went to LA for the first time, and I got to see a Lakers game. And
really?
We went oh man, that was.
I've always wanted to go to LA. I've always wanted to go to California. And what I was thinking before the pandemic, because my birthday is actually in a few weeks, I was thinking of going up to Vegas and then drive over to, because I always wanted to go to Rodeo Drive. I just wanted to actually go to LA, but that's going to change right now based on what's going on. But yeah, I always wanted to go to LA.
Yeah, but going back to it, it's surrounded by restaurants and shops and stuff. So it's a more desirable location, If I'm living in a city, or I'm living, 30 minutes away from the stadium, I'm not gonna want to go there just to, go there and park, But if I can go there and shop a little around and listen to some live music before the game starts, go enjoy the game, and then maybe, I won't have to go as far to walk or get a bite to eat afterwards, or go get a drink or something, that changes the dynamic and stuff.
And here in Florida, at our Hard Rock Stadium, They're now building, Brandon, because in the beginning it was just strictly the stadium,
Mhm.
and it's literally located in a residential neighborhood.
Yep.
And so what they're doing now, they're building restaurants, they build hotels, so they're expanding it. So I get what you're saying, that you don't just want to go to a game and
Yeah.
that's it. There's nothing else around that can entertain you. You know, even before tailgating, you want to be able to go to a game, or
Yeah.
go
You want
somewhere
you
prior or
gotta,
after. Yeah.
because I think like today you can't like with I think with today's demographics and stuff, not too many people are just going to the game to watch the game. Like you go
Right.
to the game, like they are social events as well too. Like
Yes.
not even and we all of ours were like professional, but like my Fayette, the town that I grew up in, just got a single A baseball team, and they built a stadium.
Okay.
Like, my dad has lived there since the 1960s. I've lived there all my life.
Okay.
Nobody went to downtown Fayetteville.
Really?
Yeah, no, it was just
Wow.
it was so it was so run down. It was like nobody except for like festivals or anything. But
Mhm.
as soon as that stadium got built,
It brought the
every
crowd.
weekend, everybody was there, every
Yeah.
restaurant, and like that's I think a benefit of a stadium like the Brave Stadium that I mentioned, because they decided to develop the surrounding locations. So now
Mhm.
it's not just let's go watch a baseball game. It's hey, we're gonna go here for the day. And I
Right.
think that's the problem the Rays Stadium didn't have, because they wanted that roof, which makes it, like I said, $250 million more dollars just to build a roof. That's,
Whoa.
but which I get, because Central Florida in the summer and stuff, then
Mhm.
them rain showers are going to be on and off. I've lived through them.
No, and,
And,
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I always thought when they started rebuilding or adding on to the Hard Rock Stadium here, hello, we get a lot of rain from June
yeah,
through November is hurricane season. So it's like, why wouldn't you guys make it a dome or something like to
yeah,
cover it up? Because it would make more sense. I mean, we still go to the games in the rain. To go to a Dolphins game, we still go in the rain. Okay, yeah, I get that, but it would make more sense to spend a little bit more money to cover it up. But I think they spent more money renaming it and doing a lot of like decorative features on the outside. I'm like, yo, why
yeah,
don't we just cover it up and make it more feasible? Because that way you will attract more fans. But of course, if a game is raining, you're not going to really want to sit out there with a
yeah.
poncho watching a game, because you're busy trying to protect yourself from the weather. But I agree. I always thought, I never wonder why they never tried to cover it up or get us a roof over it and make it
And,
makes
yeah.
more sense.
And plus, with the roof, I get like one of the point the Rays owner was making was that with the roof, it would be a year-round thing where you could host concerts and stuff. Whereas like an outdoor event, if it's winter, nobody's really going to want to go see Taylor Swift or whoever
Right.
in the outdoors. Whereas if there's a roof on it,
Uh-huh.
then that becomes an actual venue that you can have concerts and plays and and whatever else you want to rent it out to. So
Right.
yeah.
And I think that's good as well, because then when you cover it up, of course, you're going to put more money into the heating system in the inside, because again, we get a little cold season here in Florida. It may not be as what in North Carolina or any of the other states, but we do get, maybe we may get a little 40 degrees for maybe 2 days, and then we'll get like, if you catch us in 60-degree weather, we're bundled up with fur coats and hats and boots and so forth, which is crazy. But yeah, I think the investment into making a facility more spectacular, more attracting to tourism, it's a great deal. Because coming here to Florida, where our stadium is located, literally where it's surrounded, it's not so much of a tourist attraction, more or less what I'm saying. You would literally have to go a little further south if you want to, get like more of a scenic or some type of activity going on. If you want to just come to a sports event, it's not really majorly, but they're building around it. They're building plazas, they got cigar bars, there's restaurants around. So it's up and coming. I would say we're now 2020, I would say maybe within like 2023, I think it's because I'm looking at now as I ride, because I ride by there not so often, but I do have to go in the area. There is a lot of construction going on. So they're actually trying to enhance it. So I think it's more better, because me personally, I always said, if I was doing investment there, I would do like maybe not so much, I would do a sports bar, but I would do like a memorabilia, like a shop, something that'll entertain, not just adults, something for kids too, because of course kids go to games as well. So it should be something that's really for a family oriented. But that's my that's no.
Yep. Okay, so good.
Yep.